Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Happy Moment. My name is Dan, and I have a very special guest today. She is making her second appearance. It's Ashley Hilt, who is the host of On Wednesdays We Talk Weird. Ashley, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. I normally never do a show just once, so this is pretty typical.
Oh, good, good. I hope you're on many times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for those who may not have heard the first episode that we did together, Ashley, you are a Fortean investigator, which means you don't stick to one thing. You have multiple interests in high strangeness. You talk about cryptids, UFOs, paranormal, a whole mixed bag of things.
Yeah, just kind of I'm a professional weirdo is probably the simpler term for it. So,
I like it. Ashley, I'd like to start today by talking to you about a cryptid that a lot of people may not have heard of before, and that would be the squonk. Now,
yes.
this a lot of people may not be familiar with it because actually, I believe he's kind of specific to a certain region. Is that right?
Yes. Allegedly he's kind of been around, but nowadays it seems he made his home in Pennsylvania. So that is to the state where he seems to hail from.
One of my friends mentioned that the squonk was her favorite cryptid, and that reminded me of a book that I bought earlier this year. It's a tabletop role playing game called Fearsome Wilderness,
Mhm.
and the creatures in the game are based off of books from like early 1900s with like lumberjacks and that sort of thing. And one of the creatures in the book is the squonk. And I'm just going to read this little excerpt here in the book and let me know how accurate I am in describing this creature.
Sure.
So, squonks are eternally sad, quiet, and mournful. Their skin sags and doesn't quite fit their bodies. Warts and random patches of gray fur dot their ill fitting skin. Squonks are intelligent creatures who have to find an audience for their laments, when they're even audible over the squonk's sobbing. That sounds very sad.
It is very sad, but accurate. The squonk, it is hideously ugly and very aware of how ugly it is. And so it spends its eternal days just kind of going around the forest crying. As a matter of fact, it said that good hunters can track the squonk actually pretty easily just following its trail of tears.
Oh,
So it's
now,
pretty pitiful.
yeah, the squonk's sadness is that contagious to humans?
I mean, I suppose I think it could be. I mean, I think the reason why it's never been killed is because they feel so badly for it once they once they do encounter it
Yeah.
that they just kind of let it live. The Squonk is an interesting one. You kind of mentioned that being based off of the series of books. It is a chunk of American folklore, which are known. It's kind of grouped in this category of what's known as fearsome critters. And so lumberjacks used to kind of, sit around the campfire and tell these tales of these very strange creatures. Of course, the squonk being one of them, tons of others being a part of that as well. And there's probably a multitude of reasons of why they did it and why they might make it up. But it's interesting because if we track back, I mean, clearly lumberjacks, these are white men, right? But when we track back to like American history in general, we find that the Native Americans would tell tales as kind of stories to there's a word for it. Oh my gosh. Not necessarily that these things are real, but more to kind of keep their group in check. And this is kind of similar to what the lumberjacks did. Sometimes they were just poking fun at the new people and scaring them to death. Sometimes it was a means to keep locals out of the area that they were trying to log and level at the time. So it is really interesting to kind of look at the sociological aspects of lumberjack creatures.
The Now you have cryptids like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. Those names are pretty self-explanatory. Do you know the origin of the name Squonk? Does it go back to Native American history?
It doesn't. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, the squonk is not. Squonk's not really a cryptid. It only really shows up in lumberjack folklore. It's more of a mythical creature, whereas something like Bigfoot does have a history, does date far back into human history in general. The Squonk doesn't. It kind of only really appeared during, I would say, the 1900s up through the 1940s, and then kind of went off in obscurity with just kind of maybe grandparents passing along the story to unruly children or, things like that. It's kind of become more of an urban legend these days rather than there's probably a squonk hanging out in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so it's not really something that people report sightings of.
I've never gotten a squonk reports, but yeah, not really. Not anymore. I'm not saying that there couldn't be something that strange, but I think that's, considering how loud it is, that's a testament. I think that some of it there is some truth in a lot of these stories. The hide behind is another it's another type of fearsome critter that seems to kind of have some truth to it. And this thing can a lot of the times it appears as like a stick person, like a black stick person walking around, and then you can't really see it. It's kind of like that squiggle in your eye. So like once you try to focus on it, it hides behind the nearest object, and it can because it's a stick person. I do get a lot of reports of stuff like that. So it's like, well, clearly that has a history to it. So is there any history to the squonk itself? Is there anything in that story that's real? Well, let's look at where it's from. It's primarily in Pennsylvania, which is part of the Appalachian Mountains. And, predating lumberjack lore, one of the things there, one of the unspoken rules when you're in Appalachia is that if you hear crying in the woods, you don't go towards it. So, I mean, there could be a kernel of truth in some of the things about it. It's just, is it a really hideously ugly creature that cries all the time? I don't know.
With Bigfoot, there's theories that, it's like a relative of some kind of ape. Is there any animal that people may have mistaken a squonk for? Like, I don't know, maybe something that like a possum that was really mangy or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly could be. If you look at the description of the squonk, it's very wrinkly, it's hairless, it's got warts all over its body. There absolutely could have been a sickly, mangy animal out there. I mean, mange doesn't just cause hair loss; it also causes, disgusting. They get very itchy. They itch a lot, so they have a lot of infected spots all over their body. And you could just about apply that to any animal, like you said, an opossum. You can apply it to a fox. I don't know if they really have a lot of bears out there in Pennsylvania, but sure, raccoons, absolutely. A lot of animals without fur are really wrinkly and ugly. Most animals. You ever seen a hairless cat? I mean, they're
Yes.
cute, but they're only cute because they're hideous. They're wrinkly.
When I first asked Ashley about the squonk, her response was that she was actually a speaker at Squonkapalooza.
Yes.
So, was that just recently, or is that something you do every year?
No, so this was the first annual Squonkapalooza. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to physically go in person, so I did give a virtual talk. And, of course, I spoke about the Mothman. I didn't talk about the Squonk itself, but it went over really, really well. A lot of people are really excited, and it's kind of gotten, the locals more into these types of stories. Some of these festivals like Squonkapalooza they can be demonized by the community because again, we know now that the squonk is not real. We're not going to find a squonk nest out there somewhere, a squonk den. So some people think that, oh, well, we should have, I mean, what should we have, guys? Another Bigfoot festival? There's hundreds of them. The squonk is even though we know that that part of this stuff isn't real, it's a good gateway into these creatures that we know could potentially be real. So I say let people have fun with it, and I hope that they continue to do this now annually, and I think they're going to.
How popular is the squonk in Pennsylvania? Is it pretty big?
No, not at all.
Okay. Okay.
Not at all. I mean, honestly, this little weird community is a lot smaller than people think it is anyway. Everybody knows everybody. It's a very niche type of type of setting. So I mean, when you're talking about something so obscure like the squonk, I feel like it's only really picked up steam. I'd say gosh, even saying the last 5 years as being generous. It's just now kind of making a comeback along with there's some others too that are getting real popular. Again, the hodag is another one, but that's in up in Wisconsin. The American snallygaster, that's another one that again is probably not real, but does have a lot of fun stories. I think the snallygaster was hunted by one of the presidents at one point. So, I mean, people potentially could have been seeing something, but the snallygaster is like amalgamation of like different creatures. It's like a chimera put together. So that in and of itself is probably inaccurate. But again, there's probably some truth there. But yeah, I don't think it's big. But I think it has the potential to become really big.
It's possible that no one's ever seen a squonk because when they do, the squonk kills them. So I'm just saying,
That's true. The squonk could be very murderous. We don't
it
know how
cries to
violent
lure
they are.
people into the woods, and
And then they eat people. I mean, they are, like, big and fat in all the depictions, so, like, they're eating something or someone. I
or they could be in cahoots with another cryptid working together. There's a lot of people go missing in the woods.
the squonk and Bigfoot, let me tell you, that's I love it. I think the squonk is precious. I think it's a very fun story. I'm glad that people are now getting into it. There's some that are just I mean, they're kind of silly, and this is certainly one of them, but like I said, the crying in the woods, that's a thing,
Mhm.
there's something to that, and could it be a squawk? I don't know.
Yeah, we may never find out, but it's fun to think about.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's others in lumberjack lore that are interesting. The slide rock bolter is another one. I really like this one too because it's so ridiculous. This one I think is based in Colorado, and it is a giant fish. And when I say giant, I mean like giant. Like think of like 2 buses put together. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
And what it does is it will sit at the top of a mountain. It's got like these little things, these little sticker things on the underside of it that will stick into the mountain, and it will wait. And when somebody settles on the land there at the bottom of the mountain, there's a valley. And when someone settles on the land there, it will release itself with its mouth wide open and slide down the mountain and swallow up the whole village. And then how this landfish gets back up to the mountain, I have no idea, but that's what it does. And that's the story. That's the slide rock bolter. The whole prerogative is to swallow up villages that settle by its mountain.
That's I never heard of that one before. That's pretty wild.
It's entertaining. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about it. I love it. I love that there's allegedly this giant fish just hanging off the side of a mountain waiting for people and nobody notices it. And
Yeah,
and then it does its thing.
someone really needs to make a movie about that.
Yes, I would love I just wanna see it one time go back up the mountain. How does it get up there? It doesn't have arms to climb or
It
legs.
does it sprout wings maybe?
I would be surprised, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, that's another one that is just I mean, like I said, some of these stories are they're just so out there and so ridiculous. It's hard not to want to partake in the fun of it all, you know what I mean? It's really difficult not to get swept up in the magic of some of these stories.
Yeah, there's another one in that gaming book I mentioned, where I forget what it's called, but it attacks people so that it can make them burp or something like that.
What?
Does that sound familiar at all?
No, not at all, but I love it.
Okay. Yeah, all the creatures in there are based off of those old folklory things,
That's
so, uh,
that's awesome.
yeah, I don't know, have you ever seen, a movie about a cryptid that you thought was a really accurate depiction?
Oh, wow. Hmm. It's hard to say. A lot of the cryptid movies are, well, first of all, most of them are Bigfoot attacks people, right?
Yes.
That is most
Yep.
popular. We're being attacked by a Bigfoot. And is that accurate? Well, listen, I don't know because here's the thing about it. People do go missing in the woods all the time. I actually sell a shirt and it's got an image of a tree line and it says the earth is alive and it's a serial killer. The planet is just out to get you. I mean, that's just the way it is. So if you go out in the woods, it's just dangerous all around. But are these people being killed by Bigfoot? Well, listen, guys, it's not like Bigfoot's coming out going, "Yeah, that was me. I killed those people." We don't know. Yes. We don't know. And then the only way to really know is if we have survivors. And if there are people that claim to survive a Bigfoot attack, there's never any, they didn't go to the hospital afterwards to treat their Bigfoot wounds. So I mean, it's hard to tell. Do I enjoy a good Bigfoot, attack movie? Of course I do. Of course. I love monster movies. But are they accurate? No, probably not. I would say that the most accurate Bigfoot film I've seen it's called A Wish for Giants. And it's a wholesome movie, believe it or not, a wholesome Bigfoot movie. And it's about a girl who is like dying of cancer or something. And she's like she's in like the Make a Wish Foundation. And her wish is to meet Bigfoot, see a Bigfoot. And so the Make a Wish person is like trying to find out how she can make that happen. It's not fantastic by any means, but, you have the mystery of this person trying to, like, investigate, well, how do you find Bigfoot? Is Bigfoot real? And then, of course, whatever, does she meet Bigfoot? I don't know. You gotta watch it to find out. And then, we've got other movies like The Last Broadcast. Have you seen that one?
I'm not familiar with it.
You ever heard of that? It came out, I think, like, just a couple of years right before the Blair Witch Project came out. So it's a found footage movie, and it's about the Jersey Devil. And these actually, they're like internet streamers, but internet streamers back in the 90s compared to what we have today. And they go out into the Pine Barrens, and they're trying to hunt for the Jersey Devil, and they all start getting killed. But then it's not really about the Jersey Devil because we find out it's not the Jersey Devil killing these people. So, is that accurate? Well, it depends on if you believe in the Jersey
Yeah,
Devil or not.
right.
If you think that's real, then no, it's not. There's not a lot of them that I feel are really accurate. Even things like the Mothman prophecies, which is supposed to be based off of John Keel's book by the same name, which is about researching all these topics, is still not accurate. We don't really have films about these encounters with these creatures, depicting them the way that they were. And I think that's unfortunate. I think we should.
How about Harry and the Hendersons?
100% absolutely accurate. That is, what do they say? 100% medically accurate. Harry and the Hendersons. Absolutely. I hope it's accurate anyway. I would love a Bigfoot
Yeah.
buddy. Listen, that's my dream right there.
One movie that really scared me a lot when I was younger was, the Beast of Bray Road,
Oh, yeah.
and, that was a pretty terrifying movie, and
Yeah.
that one, I don't know, it's like they have you seen that one?
I have, yeah. And it's scary. It's scary. Is it
It's like
accurate? No. But it's
I
scary.
know that the monster in that movie was kinda like a werewolf or some kind of were creature.
Yeah, so the Beast of Bray Road it's a dog man is what it's considered, which is very similar to a werewolf. The difference between the two, so you have the werewolf, which is mythological folklore, is that werewolves are people. They're people that transform into canine type creatures, whereas you have a dog man. They don't necessarily turn into, they're not really people that turn into creatures. They're just like that all the time, upright canines. The dogman phenomenon is it's really interesting, and as somebody who is scientifically minded, it has taken me a lot to accept that there might be something to this because it doesn't make a lot of sense for something like that's on all fours like a canine to evolve to be able to walk on two legs, to be bipedal. Canines are faster than we are because they have four legs. You would think that the advantage to learning how to climb would be more of an advantage to them than bipedalism. But then you get things that happen, like we had one guy on my show, and this was a personal eyewitness story that I took in. His name was Roy Stubblefield, and the interview's still on there. I mean, Roy is a grown man who encountered one of these things, says he encountered one of these things. And when he tells this story of being attacked by this thing, I mean, the man is reduced to tears. He lives with PTSD because he was convinced, he didn't know what he saw. He saw it back in the 80s. There weren't literature, there weren't podcasts about Dogman back then. He's convinced that whatever it was that he saw was maybe some type of demonic evil something and that it was going to come after him over and over again until it got him. And I mean, it's a really compelling story. And, when you hear it, when you hear one of these witnesses talk about something so terrifying, it's hard not to believe it, right? How can I look at somebody like that in the face and go, I don't believe you because that doesn't make scientific sense? He saw something, whatever that something was. Um, could it have been a bipedal canine? Why not? Sure. Yeah, I saw Mothman. I mean, fuck, who am I to judge? So
Right.
it just is what it is. But yeah, the Beast of Bray Road is based off of a couple of dogman sightings that happened there in that area in Wisconsin. And these things are more vicious than something like Bigfoot, or at least they seem to be. People that encounter them, they're usually very aggressive. And it's not just like a physical aggression, it's something that they feel emotionally. They just feel like whatever it is they're encountering is malicious. And they've got to get out of there. We've got one here in Ohio. It's the Defiance Dog Man, and he allegedly walked around with like a 2x4 and was like beating people. And a weapon, like beating people up with it. And I don't know what the hell to think about that. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Really don't.
I listened to the episode on your show where we talked about the Beast of Bray Road, and there
Mhm.
was a story on there that was kinda chilling. It was this I think it was a woman who was driving and she hit something and she stopped her car, and
Yeah.
then, like, it came running after her and there were, like, claw marks on the side of her car. Am I remembering that right?
Yep, that's correct. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. I didn't know we were gonna talk about this.
Yeah, so sorry, I
Otherwise, I
kinda
would have
sprung
gotten
it
the
on you.
details. No, it's okay. I think I know enough. But she was driving down the road, and I don't know if she hit it or if she just saw it standing on the side of the road. I can't remember. She may have hit it, but it was, I mean, basically, I mean, it's your typical werewolf is what it looks like. Think of any werewolf you've ever seen. That's what these things look like. And I believe it actually grabbed onto the back of her car, which kind of made it difficult for her to take off. But car beats werewolf, apparently. We all know, we watch horror movies, and the car took off. And when the car took off, it did leave claw marks behind. She's actually featured, she talks about her story on it's the Small Town Monsters documentary of the same title, The Beast of Bray Road. And she does share it. She's still alive and still talks about her story, maintains the story to this day.
I can't think of any regular wild animal that would do that.
No, not a bear,
No.
for what? I mean, maybe unless it's a rabid bear, and then we've got a bigger problem than werewolves,
Yeah.
which is a true, very interesting story. But yeah, it is no, I mean, it wasn't someone's dog, it wasn't a deer.
Yeah.
Some people think that when they see Dog Man, what it could be is Bigfoot. And the reason why they think this sounds ridiculous. Some of the Dogman and the Bigfoot sightings can be kind of interchangeable because there are people that claim to see Bigfoot where it has a snout. It has like a baboon type face instead of like the flat human face. And, that would kind of make sense. There have been within our animal kingdom history giant baboons before. That's not entirely inaccurate. So are these some type of, relic creature that are left over and they're still here and they're pissed at us for being here? I don't know. Actually, the Gugwe is a type of Bigfoot that fits that description exactly, and it kind of more hails toward in the north, which the Beast of Bray Road is in Wisconsin, but this is more of a Canadian type of lore that they have there, where the Bigfoot has this big long baboon like snout, and it's very aggressive. People claim that this thing will absolutely kill you. I don't know why. I don't really quite understand why people say that. Again, I don't know if it's just that malicious feeling that they get when they see it. I don't know if it's always growling and snarling at people. I don't know. But, people claim that it's a lot more aggressive than your run of the mill Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot. And then on the flip side of that, you've got people that claim to see Dogman, but it has a snub face, barely any snout at all. So there's some people that believe that when they see that type, they're actually seeing a Bigfoot. Some people believe that when they're seeing it, period, it's a Bigfoot type creature. There's a lot of debate there in the community. I don't really have an opinion myself. I have seen neither. So I don't think it's fair for me to say one way is true and one way isn't.
Yeah, it's sure all of it's really fascinating to think about, though, just the
Yeah,
possibilities of what's out there. Kinda gives you the shivers a little bit, but so
absolutely.
we mentioned how you were a speaker at Squonkapalooza, and I just
Yeah,
kinda wanted to talk about cryptid festivals in general. Have you been to quite a few?
it's just a little bit, yeah. So where I'm located, I'm in Ohio. I'm kind of central to all these different ones. So I do go to a lot of them. I usually have, I would say, um, I guess a lot of them sounds more than I think. I probably go to at least 6 a year. I speak at most of them nowadays. I usually don't go unless I'm speaking, or I do still go to them leisurely. I won't have a booth. I won't be there as a speaker. I'm just there as a spectator. And then I kind of will bop around friends with most people in the community. So I'll kind of bop around to their tables and stuff and, let them take breaks or go get them food or whatever it is. Cause I know how daunting it is. Most of the time, it's just an excuse for me to hang out with, first of all, my friends, my fans, and then just other like minded people.
How do you get to be a speaker at one of these events?
That's a good question. I think it just depends. So some of them will have applications that you fill out and apply for. Most of them I've been asked. These events are usually ran by people that already have some type of cornerstone in the community. So when I think about some of them, the Frogman Festival was the first one I did in 2023 this year, and that's ran by my friend Jeff Craig. He's also an Ohio native. I've just met him kind of through the grapevine. He does the map in black. So he's a cartographer and he maps out weird, things of high strangeness. Actually, he makes it so that you could like road trip them all. It's really neat. So he hosted Frogman Festival, asked me to speak. Of course, I said yes. I had the Whitful UFO Festival, which is also ran by two friends of mine who are two great artists in the community. It's Mystic Novelty Co. is what they go by. It's a husband and wife duo. The husband does write books about these topics, and then they both make stuff together. So, I know them. Squonkapalooza is ran by Lisa from Cryptid Comforts, another good friend of mine. They did do an application process. I did apply for that one, but yeah, I mean, she probably would have asked anyway. So it just depends. You can get in the door by just applying, or you can get in the door by just kind of knowing these people and what's going on.
I was really excited this year because I had the chance to attend my first cryptid event. There were a couple Bigfoot events in my neck of the woods, and I was very excited because this is a pretty small area, and I never expected any cities around here would host something like that. So I was pretty thrilled. I went to both of them, and I was a volunteer at both events, and I got to wear the Sasquatch costume.
Oh,
So that
nice.
so that was pretty fun. Both events had some speakers there, probably people that you know, and it was. I mean, the whole thing was it was really cool. I had a blast there, and I hope they do it again next year.
How did you
Um,
get involved with volunteering for it?
but the place that I work was one of the sponsors for the event, and when I found out that we were gonna be sending volunteers over there, I'm like, "Yes, please.
Yeah,
Pick me."
absolutely. That's awesome. Well, see, it's just kind of a matter of just sometimes knowing the right people. And that kind of sounds like choosing favorites, but it's not that necessarily, just networking. You got to be able to
Yeah.
network in this community.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't a lot of people lining up to volunteer for it anyways, at least not where I work, so, yeah, it
So you
was
work
really
with a bunch of
cool.
losers? Is that what you're saying?
You said that,
No,
not
I
me.
understand. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Fair enough.
I work with some cool people, and the first event back in May, I was able to listen to one of the speakers for a while. His name was Jim Sherman, and he had some pretty fascinating stories to tell. And the second one, which was just a couple weeks ago, my only regret was that I didn't have a chance to listen to any of the speakers this time, just because I was so busy being
Yes.
Sasquatch and mingling with all the people, so I didn't have a chance to do that, but it was cool. There was vendors showing up from other states to be there for the Bigfoot festival, and it's just really neat anytime you can get a bunch of people with a common interest like that together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, honestly, sometimes that's why I like to go as a spectator, is because if I'm there as me, if I'm there presenting as myself, I don't get a chance to go listen to my friends speak,
Yeah.
people that I love and respect in this community, and I like their research. I can't listen to it. So it was cool because I am really good friends with Tobias Whalen, who does he wrote the Lake Michigan Mothman book. And Tobias is actually based in Wisconsin. So we kind of feed off of each other. He's given me reports about things happening in Ohio that I check out for him and vice versa. So because we're far away from each other. So we work well together, but I've never heard this man's presentation. And so we finally got to go to the same event because he's about 8 hours away and that's a trek, and he finally came down for one of these events here and he was speaking at it and I just couldn't I couldn't listen to him at all. My people that are there to hear me talk, or once you do talk, people line up at your booth that, they want to talk to you more. And that's fine. I love it. But it does become overwhelming. You become very busy. And, before you know it, the event's over. So he presented at, I think it's Ryan Sprague, who does Somewhere in the Skies podcast. He's a ufologist. He did a virtual conference and it went on. And this was like, maybe this is like within the last month, and so I got to sit at home and finally listen to Tobias's talk. It was really nice. I've known him for like 3 years. I've never heard his talk before. And it was even more funny because our presentations are so similar. And when we had both spoken at that one event, we had kind of talked about it. He's like, "So should I not talk about the Mothman? Are you going to talk about the Mothman? What should we do here?" It was very cool, but I let him give his. And so when I saw his presentation finally, I thought it was funny because it's similar but different because he's covering Wisconsin and Chicago and Lake Michigan sightings, and I'm not. But a lot of the verbiage is the same, a lot of the ideas are the same, and I just told him I think, that was even down to like our cover page for our presentation is like our name and the title of it, and it has like the two red circles for like the red eyes. I was like, that's hilarious that it's the same.
That's awesome.
And then we both introduce ourselves as Fortean investigators. So the very first slide is, I'm so and so and I'm a Fortean investigator. And the next one is what the heck is Fortean? And we both have the same slide. I'm like, I thought it was great. And he's like, yeah, great minds.
Oh, that's very cool. Uh, there was a At the last event, I overheard a conversation that a gentleman was having. He was from a local radio station, and I heard him say something along the lines of, when he went to the event back in May, he thought it was kind of gonna be like this big, like, jokey thing, and he was surprised at how many people actually believe in Bigfoot. From your experience, are there a lot of people like that at the events you go to that are pretty skeptical and aren't really into the whole thing, or
I mean, yeah, there certainly can be. When we did the Frogman Festival, and the Frogman is a ridiculous story, but it's probably happened. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Who makes something like that up? There's a lot of people there that were like, people actually believe in this stuff. And we're like, yeah, we sure do. I've had people come up to me and talk about Mothman, obviously, and they don't know who I am. They don't know what I do. They don't know that I've seen it. And it's always kind of fun because they'll be like, yeah, I don't believe in that. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I saw it. And at that point they kind of give pause. Take back whatever they just said. I did have a really nice experience at the Whitville UFO Festival the first year they had it, which was 2022 last year. And the reason why they have this UFO festival, it's in Whitville, Virginia, is because there was a major flap that happened there in the 1970s. And it was being solely covered by a local radio personality. And his story, it wasn't just, hey, he took in UFO reports and that was it. I mean, his story is very interesting. He potentially had Men in Black encounters. His health started taking a turn just because of all the stress of it. But these UFO sightings, they were so frequent that there were like spots that you could go park your car and go watch the UFOs. I mean, it was something happening there. So they had this happen. And again, this was the 70s. The 70s was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago. It was short enough to where, we had people come there that were local who knew the story. They were alive during that time. They lived through it. Or, I got to sit down. There was an after party after the event at a local brewery, and I got to sit down with a couple. It was like some young people. It was like a group of 4 young people. And, they said that they had gone to school with Danny Gordon. Danny Gordon's the radio personality with his granddaughter. And they all just thought he was crazy. They all just thought he was nuts until they had finally come to the UFO festival and listened to his story and had changed their mind about it all. So, people have been influenced by these things. I mean, you've got people that just absolutely are not going to believe unless they see it for themselves or experience it themselves. But I think for the most part, when people do show up to these things, they are willing to have their mind expanded on it.
Yeah, I think for the most part, everyone's there to have a good time, and like I said earlier, it's just really neat to get a bunch of people gathered, like, that all are into that sort of thing. It just makes for a really fun experience,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely hoping to go to more in the future because that was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
They're very
Have
fun. It's filled with a lot of energy. And then, I remember I took somebody one time and they're like, "What do I talk about with these people?" I'm like, "Talk about this stuff. What do you mean?" Like, it's very like, "Oh, you want to go talk to somebody and you're at a Bigfoot festival? Go start talking about Bigfoot. Hey, do you believe in this thing? What's your favorite piece of evidence? Oh, you don't believe in it? Why not? I mean, it works either way."
You mentioned going to a UFO conference, and I wanted to ask you about something that happened over the summer. There was UFOs kinda made headlines a little bit. There
Mhm.
were, like, Senate hearings about it. What did you make of that whole thing?
Initially I wasn't too worked up about it. Like a lot of people in the UFO community are very excited. And, I just felt like because we had that whistleblower come forward, David Grush, and he's making all these claims. He's saying that, he's a national intelligence officer and he is saying that we have a reverse engineering program, that we have ships, and that we have biologics. He won't expand on what that means exactly. But then he goes on to mention this non human intelligence. I mean, he got people really excited. And these aren't new things. These are claims that have been around forever. I mean, for a very long time, at least. Bob Lazar is one of those people that have claimed everything that the guy said. It's just that Bob Lazar was chastised and made to look like a liar. And, I'm not here to pick apart Bob's story or anything. I don't know what to make of Bob's story, but I live in Dayton, Ohio. Some of my people that I talk to work at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is where they do stuff like Project Blue Book. That's where it's all based out of is the Air Force Base. Right here, it's where allegedly the Roswell bodies are. And so maybe I was just standing too close to the topic to really get that this was something that could expand people's minds that weren't necessarily into UFOs. But when they sat down and did, I mean, it was basically a trial is what they're doing. When you see them all sitting down in a room together, they are all under oath. And a whistleblower can't just make a claim and go and then go into a court and it's just my word against yours. They do have physical evidence that they have to provide. This is, really beyond the shadow of a doubt before they can go on record and officially sit down with a committee and say, look, this stuff is happening. So there is more to Grush's story than we know. And, we're not going to get access to this information until our government is done doing a proper investigation on his claims. And even then, that information may still remain classified and they might just say, well, it's for Grush's safety or it's for other people that are involved that haven't been named yet, it's their safety. So there's certainly something to what he's saying. I believe his story. I believe that he knows what he's talking about. But I'm not very confident that we, as the American people, are going to hear any more of it. Really, I just don't think that as a species, I don't think we're ready. Am I ready? Yes, I'm very ready. Are you ready? Yeah, you're probably ready. But the average American is not ready, and we know that because we see how they react to unknowns, with the pandemic. We saw it happen. People were freaked out. They bought all the dang toilet paper. We can't have another toilet paper shortage happen, that's and that would certainly come if aliens got out there.
People are kinda weird, though, like, I remember listening to Coast AM some time back, and they were talking about UFOs, and, someone made a comment along the lines of, if a UFO landed in the middle of, the highway in Los Angeles or something, people would stop and be in awe for about 2 minutes, and then they'd start honking their horns and so they could get on with their lives and
Yeah.
want the UFO to get out of there. So, it's hard to
Yeah.
say how people would react.
And I absolutely agree with that. And I think that all this is a testament to it because, we've seen the memes and I like some of the memes, it's like, oh, aliens are real, but like, can we have healthcare? I agree with both of those things. Both things are important. Disclosing what we know about aliens and healthcare are both, and I think we should care about both, but people don't. And I do think that that's really unfortunate. I think it, until because that's the thing about what the government's saying about these things, right? They have these strange objects that are clearly watching us. The one guy that testifies all the time, I think his name is Groves. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But I know one of the Navy guys. His statement is that these things are always here all the time. It's constant. They don't ever leave. And, they're performing maneuvers that are against our known science. And I'm not saying that these are maneuvers, and they're definitely not saying these are maneuvers that like maybe another country has perfected. No, 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 no. This is stuff that does not line up to physics. It doesn't make scientific sense how they move and operate. And I think that's the reason why people don't think it's important and why they should. What the government is saying
Yeah.
is that they need to deduce if these things are a threat to us or not. Because the fact of the matter is that if they are that technologically advanced, just from what we can see, imagine the things that we can't see. And if they are that far, beyond us, what is stopping them from harming us in some way? Nothing. It's not our nukes, it's not our missiles. We don't have anything that could protect us against them. And so that is the concern. Is it a threat to national security? Is it a threat to us as humans? I personally believe that, if they were going to harm us, they would have by now, and they could have. They can at any time. And who knows? Maybe that perspective will change. I've personally considered that too. We are now really deep diving into space exploration these days. We're still doing things on Mars. We just now finished our study about how to create oxygen on Mars, and it was successful. We actually did really well with that. And we now have a machine where we can make oxygen on another planet, and that's insane. Are we going to go there? And if we go there, are we going to do the same thing there that we've done here and destroy it? And if we're doing that and we're getting further and further out in space, well, how long until we bump into an inhabited planet? And do these beings, these creatures, these aliens, these gods, whatever it is anybody wants to call them, are they going to stop us from doing that? I think they might. I think they might.
Yeah, and as interesting as it was that it made news like that, like, it seemed to at the same time, it seemed to disappear pretty quickly too. I just feel like there's a whole lot of information that is still being withheld from the public that we may never know.
Yeah,
Just
I agree with that. Well, I don't the government knows a lot about this stuff. That's my theory on it. They might have debris. Who knows? They might have bodies. Do I strongly believe that they do? I don't feel one way or the other about it. But I think even if they do have those things, they still don't have answers. They still don't know what it is. And I think that's why, they keep this stuff under lock and key is because it's scarier for us as a public to hear our authority look at us and go, we don't know what this is. We don't have answers for you. And that's why we won't get answers. We won't get any, especially until they have some. And I don't think they'll ever get any because we don't choose that. Again, we're talking about, potential life forms that are way beyond our comprehension. They're always going to be one step ahead of us. Meeting them is on their terms, not ours.
yeah, wouldn't it be wild if a UFO landed on Earth and the thing that emerges was a Sasquatch?
The squonk. You're crying from inside the ship. We're like, what's going on in there? It's terrible. Squonk comes out. I think that'd be awesome.
I mean, who knows? I mean, it could very well happen. It sounds wild, but you never know what's out there.
Like, I always believed in you, Squonk. Well, yeah, Bigfoot is one of those things. One of my recent guests actually, I did a show. It's titled the Woo Effect of Bigfoot. I had Timothy Renner on, and Tim's really interesting. He's written 2 books. Well, he's written more than 2 books. He's written a lot of books, but he's written 2 books that have kind of made a splash in the community. They're called Where the Footprints End. Him and his friend Joshua Cutchin. And it is specifically about encounters with Bigfoot that are more than meets the eye. It's encounters with Bigfoot where there's UFO activity, where there's poltergeist activity in people's homes, just very supernatural, strange circumstances. And so some people think that Bigfoot is potentially some type of alien.
Yeah, I mean, that could explain a lot of things. Why Bigfoot is so elusive. Maybe he beams up to a spaceship. That's why no one,
He
no one has
takes
really
off.
seen him. You know.
Yeah, I don't know how much I buy into it exactly. There are weird circumstances where you have Bigfoot and UFOs. The Presque Isle incident is probably one of the most famous ones that I know of. It was actually the only Bigfoot sighting investigated by Project Blue Book. So you had a couple on Presque Isle, which is right there on Lake Erie in Pennsylvania, and they were driving, just I don't know what they were doing, driving around at night, who knows? I believe it was two couples, older couples with children, a bunch of people in the car. And they had seen a UFO land into the woods far off there. And so while they're pulled over in the car and they're trying to figure out what to do about this, two police officers pull up and they tell the police what they had just seen. And the police go, okay, well, let's go check it out. So the men and the police officers take off into the woods and they'd never find, where this thing landed or what it was or what happens. But when they came back to the car, they hear the women and children screaming, absolutely petrified. So they hurry back to the car and they're like, what's going on? And they claim that while they were away, they got attacked by a Bigfoot. A Bigfoot came out of the trees and attacked the car and left marks on the car and everything. Of course, the police, they took the report and then right pat, they sent in people to come interview the witnesses and stuff, but there was no actual evidence found of either things happening. But I think it is significant. I think something happened. I think it is strange. And, what are the chances that they see a UFO and a Bigfoot the same night? I think that the chances are more likely that somehow those two things are connected. I don't know how exactly, but I don't think it's wrong. I don't necessarily think Bigfoot itself is some type of extraterrestrial creature. And I've said that I think there are flesh and blood Bigfoot out there, just an undiscovered species of ape. I don't think it's even as big as some people say. But I do firmly believe that there are people who see Bigfoot, what they think is Bigfoot, that does weird things or is associated with other weird things happening at the time. And that whatever it is that they're seeing is simply posing as Bigfoot. And it's not actually that.
Other than the UFO trials, has there been anything else that's happened recently that's caught your attention in the cryptid world or the UFO world, supernatural?
I don't think there's been anything major exactly. I've just learned new strange things here and there. I don't really get to choose my research. It just kind of chooses me. But nothing recent. I don't think there's been no real ramp up in any type of activity or nothing new. I don't believe.
You don't anticipate any trials in the Senate for Bigfoot anytime soon?
No, unfortunately not. I wish. I wish we could get some Bigfoot trials going. There are laws. There's laws protecting Bigfoot in different states. Washington's one of them. You're not allowed to kill a Bigfoot there. It's a protected species. So, it'd be maybe we should push that for the whole country and get Bigfoot onto the spotlight there. Bigfoot's turn.
Yeah, I think as time goes on, it's gonna be even harder to try and prove the existence of Bigfoot or any other creature out there, just because, like, lately we've seen the rise of artificial intelligence, and
Yes.
anytime someone sees a picture or video, their first reaction is gonna be, "Oh, that's photo." So, we
Right.
may never find, like, solid proof. I don't know.
Well, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and, science doesn't care about photo or video evidence. Science cares about other evidence, mostly bodies, right? They need a body. And that's why these things are so difficult. If photo and video evidence were prevalent before AI, and now with AI, it's impossible, right? I mean, people send me stuff all the time. What do you think about this? I don't know what I think about it. It could be something, it might not be anything, I don't know. I still like to watch them, I think they're interesting, But, if we look at things historically, like the greatest piece of Bigfoot video evidence of all time, the Patterson Gimlin film. It doesn't matter how many times people have come forward. We've got things like on that video, there's muscle movements. And what we know is that there were not costumes that existed at the time that could do that. They just didn't exist. And you've got really important people in special effects saying that. I mean, Disney Imagineers have said we could not have made that. And they had Disney money, So,
Yeah.
there's so much evidence that this is some type of biological creature. And then they went and put, of all things, let's make it weirder, they put titties on it. It's female, you know? They really thought this out. If it was some type of hoax, first of all, they really thought it out. And also, they had the greatest special effects artist of all time on their side. And that person has never, well, some guy has come forward claiming to have made the suit, but strangely enough, he's never made another one. So I was kind of suspicious. But that piece of evidence wasn't enough for science to look at it and go, you know what? That's real. We need to, make laws to protect the species. We need to start trying to learn about it. And I think that's kind of part of the issue. I think this is all where this all went off. When we did get something like the Patterson Gimlin film, we should have done more in the scientific community. Because one thing that we don't have when it comes to cryptozoology is research, funding for research. The scientists aren't researching this stuff because they're not getting paid to. And so unless that happens, and it won't, I'm not going to say it never will. It's just that it's going to take a lot for us to get there. We'll never get anywhere. Had we gotten that film at the time and went, you know what, let's actually look into this more, we may have gathered proper evidence, and you may be looking at Bigfoot in zoos today, but we didn't. And so here we are now. So if that piece of video footage was not good enough, there's never going to be a piece of video footage or photo that's ever good enough, especially now because everything that you see can be fake.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Ashley, there's more I'd like to ask you about, but this hour's flown by, so I think I'm gonna save it for a future episode.
Sure.
Great having you. And your podcast on Wednesdays, we talk weird. What do you have coming up as far as future episodes, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh gosh, a ton. So I am currently conducting a co-host search. My recent co-host has gone from the show, and so I am getting new people in. I'm very excited because I do have people in mind already, and they are awesome. The show itself is not going to change. So, in the foreseeable future, right now, all the way up until the end of the year, you will catch a bunch of guests on my show. And man, they're all super interesting. My most recent episode, I had a ghost hunting family on. That was cool.
Ooh,
Like I said, I had Tim Renner on. We talked about Bigfoot and the woo. I've had demonic folklorists on. I mean, it's been so interesting, the different people that I've had. So, come on and check out those people, especially if if you're not usually into these topics and you're wanting to expand and get a good jumping off point. My guests are all very reliable people. So come listen to those. Of course, you can listen to the backlog for now while you wait it out for what comes next, because starting the beginning of the year, I can't say exactly what, but there is new stuff coming and it's very exciting and you definitely don't want to miss it.
very cool. And where can people find you?
Oh yeah, that's right. If you want to find me somewhere. Yeah, you can find me I'm on Facebook under Ashley Hilt. I'm the one with the red hair. I do have a business page if you'd like to follow along there. You can find me on I guess it's X now. I don't it still doesn't feel right to me to
Yeah.
call it that, but X/Twitter or Instagram at it's Ashers. And those are my main socials. So and then follow on Wednesdays we talk weird anywhere you listen to podcasts.
All right, awesome. Ashley, thank you again. All right, and there's my first episode back after being on hiatus for almost a year. Ashley is always a great guest, and I always have a lot of fun talking to her and learn something interesting. For those of you who are new to the podcast, thanks for joining me. And for those of you who have stuck with me since the original run, thanks for sticking around. Just a reminder, you can now find me on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search for a Happy Moment Podcast. And I hope you'll stick around and join me next week. I'll be joined by Jack Bowman and Kenton Hall. Both of them have a very extensive list of credits as writers, producers, directors, and more. And we'll be talking about a couple projects that they worked on recently and how they're breathing new life into a lost horror classic. Hope to see you then. Take care, everybody.